you Oh my gosh, I've been talking for so long. I forgot to put my mic on. I've been reading all the dialogue too. I knew I would forget to unmute something. Well, shit happens. Okay, back to the game. But yes, I was responding to you this whole time. Yeah, the art style is really nice. It's a lot like Sailor Moon. So I think it's really neat. Oh hey, a vegetable. I may have been muted this whole time, but at least I had a vegetable. But yeah, I'm sorry to anyone who's been watching and being like, there's no one talking. No one... That explains a lot. But yeah, there's the fishing lady. We just talked to her. And here is some little store stuff. Oh, he's got recipes. For fences. A sewing tin. Ooh. Okay, worn sandals. Oh, these are cosmetics. Reading glasses. I kind of want those, but I've got to save up. Okay. So what we're doing now is we're trying to meet everyone. Because it's similar to that one quest in Stardew Valley where you gotta basically say hi to everyone you can. Let's see. We already met a good chunk of people. We met them. We met the doctor. And who else do we got to meet? Oh wait, I can check on the map. Okay. If it has a picture, I've met them. Oh, I've got to meet Errol. Okay, so I gotta go back to the museum. I know, right? It shows where everyone is, and I have gone the wrong way. Even a map can't save me from going the wrong direction. I am supposed to go left, but not all the way up there. Hello, out exploring the town? Mistria has a number of historical sites you may come across on your travels. This area is a hot spot for archaeology, you know. If you notice any raised areas on the ground, try using a shovel or a pickaxe on them. You never know what you might have excavated. You never know what you might excavate. No longer will we be stalking people's schedules. Nope, because you can see where they are all of the time. We've upgraded in technology. Okay. I think he's the last person we meet, and then we gotta go find Adeline. And of course, take another vegetable out of the ground. Said he's here. Yep, he's right there. Errol. Hello, are you the new farmer everyone's been talking about? I hear you'll be helping to raise Mistria's renown. How splendid. It seems we share a common goal. You can call me Errol. I'm the curator of Mistria's brand new museum. I hope you'll consider donating some items. It's a great way to earn renown. I'm way ahead of you, buddy. You'll even receive rewards for each collection you complete. Let's support each other's efforts for Mistria, eh? I'll be rooting for you, Blaze. Yeah! Let's see, do I have anything I can donate? No. I already donated everything that was donatable. And I can't dig up spots until I have a pickaxe. And you have to get a certain part of the way into the game until the mine's open. Alright, map. Where's Adeline? Looks like she's up in the building up top. Is that everyone? 22 out of 22. Perfect. Okay, where are you? Are you in here? Are you in your office? There you are. Turn in. You finished meeting everyone in town? That's wonderful. Congratulations on completing your first request. Here's your reward. Potato seed, some gold, and some renown. I know, right? She's very pretty. And that's why we're giving her a tulip right now. Thank you, Blaze. This is very thoughtful. No, this is the potato soup. Oh wait, this is vegetable soup, but it's probably like, oh wait, potato seeds. I got it. Took me a minute. I got confused. But either way, we finished the quest. Let's go to the beach. How much space in my inventory? Let's go back to the farm and then go to the beach. I'll sell off some of the extra stuff I don't need. Except the berries, those are helpful. I knew I'd come back by that dandelion. I hope I get the axe soon because I really need to make a chest I can put outside. Let's put away the berries. This. Okay. Let's plant some more potatoes. Ooh, level 2. First day and we've already got so much planted. Tater time. Yeah, I bought one before, so we're gonna get 4 taters from this. 3 turnips and 3 tulips. Okay, water in these bad boys. Let's also put some stuff in the shipping bin. I'm selling the soup. As much as it's a good item to have, it's early game, I need more money. Okay, let's go this way so we can go towards the beach. Can't do any fishing or bug catching yet, but we can still gather some seashells and stuff. One day we'll get these. I'll be taking this. There we go, a shell. Blue conch shell. Any more shells? Ooh, another shell. I don't need them for the museum, so I could sell those. What else do we got here? Not really much I can do. But a few extra things to sell is always good this early on. I should probably go back and get that, cattail fluff. Okay. Let's sell you guys. Hello, bird. Now what else do we got to do? Right, I was gonna get those cattails. Ooh, berries. I'll be taking those. Okay. Get some cattail fluff. I know they're using a lot of crafting things. So best to gather them now. Have you met my darling Ayland and Adeline? I'm their great aunt. Well, not by blood. Some of us are simply born aunties, you see. Hey, I love the little bugs. They're so cute. Huh, grass seed. Okay, and this will take us back into town. And I think I'll just sleep, because, I don't think there's much else you could do in the first day. Because I already planted everything I could and met everybody. So it's back to the farm. So I can clear some more grass. There is still quite a bit of grass. Oh, that's a tree. Yay. Hey. I'll be saving the hay and grass seed for when we have animals. Which will probably be the chickens first. Because the coop in these games are typically easier to make. Okay, that's enough for over there. Let's get a bit over here. And I'm actually hoping soon to get a new microphone, so I'm hoping that'll be a lot better than this one. But I still gotta wait for it. But I'm so excited. Because I love at least decent quality microphones. Especially because my old one got lost. Thank you for being excited for me. And I might start doing other styles of video too when I get the microphone. Maybe even practice some singing again. Haven't done that in a long time. Okay, that's a lot of the grass cleared. I think that's good enough for day one. There's really not much else to do. And I sold some stuff, so we should be able to start buying some things. See, we got renown. Got monies. That's a good amount of monies for this early. Down level. Ooh. We went up a few levels in the town. That's pretty good for the second day. Hey, what's up? We're playing Fields of Mistria. We just got through the first day. And I'm basically just cleaning up the farm. And doing any little tasks here and there I need to. I've played some of it, but I haven't gotten super far. Ah, good morning, Blaze. When I was here the other day, I noticed something suspicious about this tree. I believe it's covering old stonework. As head of the Historical Society, I thought I'd investigate, but this old bark is proving to be surprisingly tough. Historical Society? Haha, that is to say, Errol, Teresia, and Ulrich, when he can remember. I'd be delighted if you joined us. Ooh, I think I need a moment. Let me take a swing at it. Yeah, let's go. I can chop down a tree. I've chopped down so many trees in my day. Oh, by all means, here you go. You can have my axe. Let's go. I want to cut down some trees. Incredible. This is a statue of Caldaris, the mythological... This is a statue of Caldaris, the mythological guardian of Mistria. Our ancient ancestors used to worship statues like this one. What an incredible find. Same about the head, but with a little help from the newest member of the Historical Society, I think we can see him as good as new. If you would, Blaze? Yes, I'll put his head back on. Have we undecapitated him? Good. There we are. Don't you just love that sense of achievement? I believe that reconnecting with Mistria's past is the key to our future. This has been a most productive morning. Thank you for all of your help. Please keep the axe. And do let me know if you stumble upon any intriguing archaeological finds yourself. We got the statue! Woo! Let's look at him. The statue has a dignified presence. It almost seems alive. Wood. Let's go check the mail. Recapitated, if you will. Yeah, I recapitated him. The first kind of wood. I mean, dragon. As the curator of Mistria's museum, I'm delighted to share that we have unveiled a series of tiered rewards to encourage donations to our collection. Please stop by the museum west of town at your earliest convenience. Errol. Ooh. I can donate more stuff if I find more. Oh wait! I have an axe now. And before I go up there, I should water my crops. I don't want them to dry out. Let's see. Yes, dragon hot. I don't know if the romance is out in-game yet, but I think I either want to go for the dragon or March. But also Adeline is very pretty. Okay, our crops are watered. Life is okay again. Hello, bird. I just love how there's so much nature around everywhere. And I can catch a lot of it. Okay, so we were going to the museum. Can't go there. That's a dead end. Okay, this way. Let's go meet up with Errol. Blaze, welcome, welcome. I assume this is about my letter? Excellent. In my talks with Lord Aeland and Lady Adeline, they entreated me to concern myself with objects from antiquity, as well as to use the museum to showcase the many unique specimens of Mistria. To wit, if you could bring me not only your archaeological finds, but also the plants, insects, and fish of the local region, I believe together we can create a museum that's one of a kind. You want my crops? Indeed. I will display the items that you donate so that visitors from far and wide can appreciate what Mistria has to offer. You know, I'm not sure how long those crops would actually last. Yeah, I'm guy with pink hair. The only one I can think of who's close to that is Martin. His hair's more red, I think. But I might romance the dragon if I'm able to. And do not think we would be ungrateful. There is a generous reimbursement policy set up by the Historical Society, renown, and all kinds of rewards. You do. I hope you can play it later. It's really fun. Would you like to view the museum tutorial? I don't think I would. What do you say, Blaze? Can we count on you? Get ready for an alarming variety of creepy crawlies. Oh, Aelin? He has pink hair? I never looked that closely. Next time I look at him, I'm gonna see how pink his hair is. I think I just thought it was white, but it might be just a very light pink. Okay, let me give you a small stipend to welcome you. I get monies and renown. And I could start cutting down trees. Ooh. Lilac. I guess we're not going that far since I need to donate that. Okay, donate. Have a flower. You know, I sometimes wonder how they preserve all these things in the museum. Considering a lot of them are perishable. But you know what? Errol can keep his trade secrets. Oh hey, more berries. There's always so many of these. At least in spring. I don't know if they bloom in any other season. Let's see, what... I might make the days a little shorter. I had them set longer. Oh, it's at standard. Okay. Oh yeah, I could start cutting down wood. Let's start with the wood that's in the way. Okay, there's the stuff that's in the dig area. Oh, running out of space here. What can I sell? Yeah, no, I don't want to sell that stuff. Let's put it in the chest. Okay, there we go. Now we can get back to chopping wood. Okay. There's always so much at the beginning to chop away. And I know we're gonna have to build that bridge eventually. The one we saw at the beginning of the game, so it's probably good to gather some wood now. And enough to make a chest, too. So I can have an extra chest. Now let's get some more wood. Yeah, wood time. Having some chill vibes, chopping down some trees. Real farmer vibes. Oh, I'm out of stamina. See, let's see if I have enough to make a chest. Because a chest would be nice. Let me stop here to see if there's anything I can cook. I'd prefer not to call in a favor, but I suppose there'll be trouble with my supplier if... Oh, Blaze, I almost didn't see you there. Sorry, did you need something? Oh, it is pink. Okay, yeah, you were completely right. I am just blind. I always thought it was just white, but now I see the pink, and I can't unsee it. You can dig up artifacts with a pickaxe or a shovel. Either one works great. Now that you've moved in, it's only a matter of time before my oldest will have you taste testing her dishes. Reina gets everyone eventually. Okay, let's see. I can cook something. Max amount. Let's go. Because it would be good to have some of this for stamina, because I know we're gonna run out a lot. There isn't much to do during the early days, but still. It would be good to have these early. And every time we get more water chestnuts. And there's always the free soup. Yes, I would like the free soup. Oh, they're all gone. They left while I made trail mix. Okay, the chests. Let's get those. Monies. And a cosmetic. Do bro a favor. Yeah, I'll do bro a favor. Oh, you're requesting trail mix. Well, I guess we're gonna have to give up some of it. I'm so happy you've taken over the old farm, Blaze. It was long neglected. I can't wait to see what you do with it. Aye aye, Captain. Now I've got quests to do. March. I know you just arrived, but I wouldn't get too comfortable. Thank you. I will come back for you later. Oh, it's you. If you need help with your new garden, go bother someone else, I'm busy. Oh man. Errol. You can find artifacts all over Mistria. They can be donated to the museum or sold. But I really hope you'll donate them. Oh, there's the wood thing. I was looking for that. And I need to be at least level 4 to do chests. Okay. Let's do 4 of them. Let's see. Let me try 5 of them. See if we can get to level 4. Okay, just barely got to 4. You got zonked? That's okay. Welcome back. I'm just making fences and about to see if I have enough wood left over to make a chest. Which I do not. I need to get up to 30 wood. Let's see, can I cut down this tree? You know, I didn't think it would let me cut down a tree in town, but cool. We got almost enough. And there we go. I have enough wood for a chest. Okay. I'm making the one chest. So many kinds of zonked. Oh, my chest is ready. Now I can put it down. I did not mean to throw my axe. Oh hey, it's Blaze, right? How's it going? Stay safe, my dude. Let's see. I am glad for that. Okay, now we get an outside chest. Put it there. I'm gonna clean up some more grass. I've got an axe here. Gotta clear out more trees. Okay. Now let's see the quests we got. Trail mix. And talk to Ulrich. Okay. Wait, who wanted the berries? Josephine. Let me see where she is. I think that's her over next door to the inn. Yep, there she is, sweeping. Yep, let's turn it in. Doesn't this trail mix look scrumptious? I'm sure the kids love it. And I got monies for it. Yay! I love that. Okay, the next quest I've gotta go up. To here. A little further up. To here. Blacksmith. Let's turn in our quest. Thanks for taking my request, Blaze. Now, where did I put that pickaxe? Ah, here we are. Wow, you're incredibly ripped. Aw, thanks for noticing. I used to be a miner before the earthquake hit, and we had to shut down the mines. I just help out around here. My brother is the blacksmith in town. If you want to know more about the mines, you should talk to Errol. He used to be the mine's foreman, but now he's our museum curator. I respect him a lot. He's way chiseled. Oh, that's right. I wanted to have my old pickaxe. Breaking rocks is a great way of getting toned. It's a little old, but it should be strong enough to break small rocks. If you want a stronger pickaxe, you'll have to forge it or buy one from us here. I'm glad you'll be putting this one to good use. These days I help out my little bro March around the family forge. He's a great blacksmith, but he's a little, well, not, like, great with other people. Speaking of him, there he is. Ulrich, are you out here? I need... what are you doing here? Hi, March. I'll enjoy your chit-chat with my brother, but try not to waste too much of his time. Ulrich, come to my room when you're done. I need you to look over a blueprint. I love him. I want him. Sorry, he doesn't mean it. So, as for my favor, if you could, like, give March a chance, that'd be way cool of you. He doesn't have a lot of friends. I'll talk to you later, Blaze. I get a pickaxe out of it. And I get to talk to the two of them. Win-win. Let me rearrange it. There we go. That means let's clear the farm of rocks now. It's a long way to the farm from there. Now I can get these. Okay. Anything else I can actually do on the farm? There's that thing I unlocked there. Oh, I've unlocked them already? Let me see. I can become a cat. Perfect. I now have cat ears and a tail. I love it. This game is modded because I really wanted to have these cat ears and tail. And a few other small quality of life, but I didn't go too cheaty. Because I still want to have fun with the game. Okay, let's... Honestly, there's nothing really to do. My stamina's down. Let's go to the next day. We get to talk to the dragon. Well met, mortal. You're the guardian dragon. I am Caldaris, the guardian of Mistria. Thank you for repairing my shrine. Oh, I think I added more, day length options, making dig spots easier to see because I'm a little bit blind. And telepops, which are lollipops that teleport you. But I wasn't really planning on using most of them. Most of them are optional things that I don't even have to get. But I figured I like modding things, and I figured have a few. I am Caldaris, the Guardian of Mistria. Thank you for repairing my shrine. I have been asleep since. Well, I cannot seem to remember exactly. Even now, my mind is shrouded in fog. Magical essence has begun to flow again in Mistria, of that much I am certain. I ask you to extend your assistance once more, mortal. I need you to collect this essence and offer it to me at my shrine, so that I may regain my strength. I hereby bestow upon you the ability to sense and collect essence. You should find it naturally when going about your daily tasks. No, I think I'm good without the tutorial. I grow tired. Let us speak again tomorrow by my shrine. I am honored. You can count on me. Sleep now, mortal. We will speak again soon. We got no money because I forgot to sell anything, but we got a lot of renown today. Oh, next level. Wow. Gaining a lot early on. Now what else do we got in store? Save completed. I am now a cat again. I love this. Okay, what do I got in my inventory? The stone there. Check the mail. We can start repairing the bridge. Okay, we gotta go up there. Let's gather stone first. So then we can have it for... because this bridge is a stone bridge, it's gonna need stone. And maybe wood. How much stone can I get? Boy, I can't wait to upgrade these tools. Because it takes a while to get anything. Okay, get that over here. Let's get the axe out. Okay. Let's get the big tree. Okay, that took a lot of stamina. Let's go start the bridge quest and then give up all our wood and stone to it. We gathered a lot for the first day of the quest. Oh. Right. Oh, that's not up enough. There we go. And right. And a bit further to the bridge. Berries. And here we go. Hey Blaze, so we're just getting started. Adeline, you know I'm up for it, but this is a big project. You can rely on me to keep Mistria supplied with the basics until the construction is done, but I can't work miracles. Without the bridge, I can't get my wagon in and out of town. And there's only so much I can carry on my back. I've allocated all the resources I can for this, but the earthquake relief from the capital hasn't been as robust as we'd hoped for. I've talked it over with the other merchants in town. We're happy to contribute funds. You've got our backing. That's wonderful to hear, Nora. However, with the whole kingdom in dire need of repair materials, we can't afford the inflated prices on the stone and wood we'll need. Sounds like it's my time to shine. I'm gonna collect everything. Wonderful, Blaze. I knew you were the right person for the job. Gathering materials locally would definitely speed things up. That farmland of yours is loaded with high-quality stone and timber, Blaze. If you're willing to do the gathering, we can compensate for the materials. By my calculations, 60 stone and 60 wood should be enough. Sounds right to me. With a repaired bridge, we will be able to get the Saturday market up and running again. I'll set up a donation box here at the bridge for you to deposit any gathered materials. Come talk to me when you're finished and we'll begin the repairs. We're counting on you. Time to shove my wood in there. Yeah, shoving my wood in the box. And stone. Okay, so I've got about half of what I need. Yeah. Now, I don't think there's much else I can do today other than, like, craft things, but I don't really have much to craft with. I mean, I can make another rug, but that's about it. And I can't access the mines yet. Hello! A thoughtful strike with the pickaxe is a great way to move any furniture you have placed, Blaze. I wonder who figured out you could do that in the first place. Yeah! Okay, so we've got half of the bridge materials in there. Which means that the next day we'll probably have to use our stamina to get the other half. How's it going with the farm? It's a big adjustment coming out here to Mistria from the capital. I'm just getting used to it myself. Don't judge March by his first impression, or his second impression, or maybe his third impression. I guess you gotta judge him at some point. Thank you, Ulrich. My judgment on my first few impressions are I want him viscerally. Oh, hi, Nora. Strange. The latest delivery we received from Valor wasn't the price we were expecting. Somehow it was lower. How is that possible in this market? You don't think... No, never mind. Okay, back to farming and also berries. Got some berries. Let's check on the farm. Okay. Put that away. This in here. Oh fuck, I forgot about that. I need energy to water my plants. Did I go for the government soup yet? The communal soup. Let me in. I need soup. Today's flavor. Oh, it's minestrone soup. Yes, give me the soup. Thank God it was here. Young Luke informed me that you can find many new insect specimens by shaking trees. I'll leave that to you, Blaze. I noticed Mistria may seem a tiny backwater town, but keep an open mind. It has charms the capital could never offer. Morning, Blaze. Let's both find some time to do a little fishing today, eh? You must be working so hard down on the farm, Blaze. Are you eating enough? Sleeping enough? Okay, I got the soup. Good. Because we got watering to do. Which that's usually the first thing I do, but I almost forgot. Can I put it in this chest? I did. There we go. And water them. Potatoes. Turnips. And the tulips. There we go, everything is watered. I didn't forget anything, I would never. yeah, I almost forgot to talk to him too. Ah, greetings, mortal. The time has come for you to begin collecting essence. Essence will appear in the form of small purple orbs as you go about your day. Try activities such as farming, fishing, and mining. You'll be sure to find some. Use the shrine when you want to offer your collected essence. In exchange, I will use my restored power to grant your skill perks. These skill perks will serve to make life a little easier for you. I grow tired. Let us speak again tomorrow. Ooh, I get perks. Let me start with the... Oh, well, I guess there's this. Sometimes you get a seed. Refund the stamina. Ooh. I don't know if I should get, the one where it can occasionally drop a seed from when you, forage something. Or make it so that watering crops sometimes refunds the stamina. Because they're both pretty good. Because the seeds means more crops, but the stamina means more I can do. I think I'll go with the watering crops. Yeah, this one. Let's refund stamina. He had enough essence for that. There we go. Little more stone. Did I check the board? Oh, let's check the board now, just in case. Oh wait, there it is. I did not check the board. Let's get our stuff. Monies. And a cosmetic. Adventurers jerkin? I don't think I want that. No thank you. Oh, there's Celine. Hi, Celine. I work part-time at the general store. I hope to stop by when you can. Okay, I'll give it to you then. Oh. I'll have to get more water chestnuts when they grow back. Don't remember, are they east or west? Let's see, what's by the water? Hi, more berries. I'll take those. Oh, I can get these now, too. Okay, so it's the other way, and I don't think they're grown back yet. I might be able to buy a fishing rod. I know what you're thinking. I wasn't expecting to spend my hottest years in this autumn town, but here I am. Oh, just me. Okay, let's go bring this to the museum. Oh, Ulrich. Hey Blaze, how's it going clearing the farm? Find any cool rocks? I'm only asking because I'm a rock guy. I will bring you rocks one day. You too. If you have any questions about Mistria, I'm your guy. Been living here my whole life and then some. Wait, that's not quite right. Keeping the heat even requires a lot of concentration. So don't distract me. Well, okay then. I'm definitely gonna keep distracting him. There, now I can do this. Ooh, I leveled up. Here, have your peat. As the representative of Mistria, it's my responsibility to get you oriented. So if you have any questions, please ask my sister Adeline. Unless you're looking for the best sweets in town, then I'm your man. I don't have to share my room anymore ever since Celine moved out. Not fair, I want my own cottage too. Blaze, have you broken up the rocks around your farm? Sometimes there's insects living underneath. I'd love to see what you find. Soon. Bug catching. Oh wait, I missed character. Okay, oh well. Let's see, more. Oh, new thing! I've got no space left, so let's give it up. To the museum. The berries up here. Is Errol not here? I wanted to give him the peat, the second peat. Okay, donate. I get 2 more things in that collection. Okay, well, let me get rid of that. Where did Errol go? Well, he's gotta be in town somewhere. I'll check the inn. Yeah, I did check the map. I'm just also not good at reading the little icons. Okay, so he's not here. I can tell he's somewhere in town, just not where. Is that him over there? On his way to leave town? Moving too fast for me. There you are. That old farm has been derelict for quite some time. It makes my heart small knowing someone will be taking care of it again. Here, take your Pete. Tremendously thoughtful of you, Blaze. Thank you. So good at gift giving. Here, have a cool rock. Okay. Let's check if the water chestnuts grew at all. Probably not, but I'd still like to see. Oh, there's stuff over here. Looks like it was worth coming over here anyways. Let's see, no, they're not grown yet. I'll grow back eventually. Oh, you could shake the trees. Neat. Okay. Put you in here, save you. Sell you. Save you. And you're going to the museum. And this is going here. There's a dig spot. I knew there was one on this part. Let's see what artifact it is. Ooh. Now the bronze sword. That's really neat. Ooh, more of those too. Just out on some stuff over here. And some berries. Donate some stuff. And I think it's about time to head back and end the day. Let me make sure. Lagging a little bit, but we will chug along. Back to the farm. Everything's watered. We got a little bit of money and a little bit of renown. All in all, a pretty decent day. Oh, it's Reese's birthday. Let's give him some wood. Well, thank you for coming to my stream, and have a good sleep, friend. I will have fun. Oh, I don't have to water now. Hell yeah. Okay, here we go. Maybe I should get bigger bag space. Well, I guess I got what I asked for, and that was wood. Okay, I got some clay, some berries. Let's get that bag. Oh, it's 1,000, not 500. Okay, so I gotta make a little more money before I can get that. Soon. Actually, I might be able to do it now. Just barely. Give me that bag upgrade. Yeah! We've gotten pretty far and gotten a bag upgrade. What else do we... Any quests? Scarecrow. And... Bug quests. Let's head over there first. And then it was all like whoosh, and then bzzz, and I was like, oh, wham! Ooh, amazing! Please, you came. Are you ready to become an entomologist? It means someone who studies insects. Yeah, that's what I do. There are a lot of cool bugs in Mistria, and Mr. Errol at the museum agreed to have a whole wing dedicated to them. I'm so excited. So are we. Until now, Luke's been bringing all his finds back to his room. But it's a big job being the only entomologist in Mistria. Will you join me? I've got to catch 'em all. That's what I like to hear. I want to give you my old net. It's brought me lots of luck over the years, but I think it's time. Pass it on to a new generation of bug catchers. I get to catch bugs now. Look at that form. Don't forget to bring any new bugs you find to Errol at the museum. Please don't bring them here. Be sure to tell me about any neat bugs you find, Blaze. Will do. Got a bug net now. Now I can catch all the little bugs. Let's bring some of this stuff to the museum. Aldarian sword. Neat. Okay, those rocks are just decoration. I have clay and a sword. We're getting somewhere, boys. Hey, I'm gonna need more stuff. Let's go back and put some stuff away. Chop some trees down. I'm gonna have to find Reese. Let's see, where did Reese go? Need to give him some wood. But I also love that there's a separate button for giving gifts and interacting. Like, wow, I can push a button to talk, and I can push a separate button to give a gift. I should look on the map where he is. Okay. Let's go this way. Give him some wood. I've come to give you my wood, Reese. Where are you? There you are. Uncle Landon is retired, which is another way of saying he's bored. Here you go. For me? You knew it was my birthday? Thanks, Blaze. This means a lot. Yeah. Get wooded. Now let's toss the rest of this into a thing. Getting some more wood. Okay, that should be enough now. Now I gotta focus on, stones. To get 60 of them. So we just gotta find the right amount of rocks. There seem to be plenty of rocks here, too. Okay, let's put the rocks in and then come back. Did I do the soup already? Let's go find out. Every little bit counts. Yup, I can have the soup. Okay, what kind of soup was it? I didn't read it. Potato soup. Yes, potato soup. Give me the potatoes. Yeah. Is there any other easy recipes? We'll see what you guys have for cheap. Nope. I'll have to just go with the soup. Okay. I'll go back to my farm for now. I'm sure there's plenty of rocks there. 27 of them I need. I'm sure there, yep, I already see some. Oh, I see how what's happening. It lags a little when I get too much on the screen. There we go. I gotta eat more stone. That's pretty good. Let's clear this out a bit more. Catch some bugs too. Petal hopper. What a cute little thing. Over here. Let's see. Do I have anything in there? I can't believe eating the little acorns is better than eating the berries. Okay, I think that's all the things I can do today. Let's sell these. No, don't sell him. I need him. Here, you can take that fiber. There we go. That's a good place to end the day. Ooh, new rewards. And here we go. I should have enough stamina to get the amount of rocks needed. Hey Blaze, Mistria has a tradition where everyone gathers at the Sleeping Dragon Inn at Friday nights. That's tonight, and this is your invitation. Meet me at the inn after 6 p.m. tonight. Keep me company, and I'll throw in a free drink. Reina. Well, I can't say no to that. Ooh, my things are grown. Turnips. These aren't grown yet, though. That's okay, though. Let's go water them. Okay, water these bad boys, the taters. Nice. Okay. Sell one. Actually, let's wait to sell that until the quest. Put the hay and the grass in there. Okay. Let's get some stone. just until we get 27. Or as much as we can get with the stamina we have. Either way. Here we go, we got enough. Let's talk to the dragon as well. We feel compelled to talk to Calderus' statue. The people of my time had a saying that they passed down through many generations. Do not forget that there's a jump button, I believe it was. I assume that makes much more sense if you're human. Perhaps you will find it useful. Let's see. There we go. I like cooking, so cooking upgrade. I'll be taking a short break to get some water. So I'll be back very soon. Alright, I'm back. Ready to continue the game. Okay, where was I? Alright, okay, water the crops, talk to the dragon. What quests we got? Okay, Friday night at the end. After 6 p.m. Need to get the rest of the stuff for the bridge. Water chestnuts for Juniper. A scarecrow for Errol. Okay. Let's start by getting all the materials for the bridge over to it. Oh, the spot. Fine. It was only fiber, but it was still worth it. I love being able to jump in and dig stuff out of the water. It's always so fun. But my goal is the bridge. And I will get there. Hello. How do you like town so far, Blaze? I know I could do with some repairs and a fresh coat of paint or two. But I think you'll find it's a nice place to live. Thank you. Go up here. And right. Because I want to finish making that bridge. And of course I gotta find Adeline as well. There we go, let me get some berries. And put the rest of the stone in. It's all ready. Now where's Adeline? Is over by the general store. Okay. Can make it back that way. Past the carpenter shop. Just another pedal hopper, okay. In here? This is the clinic. Okay, a little further down. Hey, there's berries over there. Okay, let's talk to Celine first. I'll be at the inn this evening. Lord Aelin's been so excited to play his new game with us. Nora? Sounds like there's going to be a bit of a crowd at the inn tonight, Blaze. Hope to see you there. Let's get my stuff. Adventurer's pants, good. Okay, request for gardening materials, I'll take those. And you want lilac. Okay. You're looking for lilacs? I've seen them growing near Hayden's farm, I think. Hayden's farm is to the west of your farm if you haven't been there yet. And Adeline? Okay, let's turn in the request. Hey there, Blaze, what's up? Gathered what we need to repair the bridge. Nothing much, just completed the bridge repair donation. Oh, that's nice. Wait, what? That's wonderful news. Come on, let's go tell everyone. It's time, let's get the bridge repaired. Nice work, Blaze. Now it's my turn. Just let us know how we can help, Reese. Are we done, Reese? Feels like we're done. You sure are. This bridge is going to last a long, long time. Great job, everyone. I'll let the Saturday market merchants know that the bridge is repaired. Let me help you, Adeline. Together, I'm sure we can guarantee that Saturday will be market day in Mistria again. Cheers to that. Woo, renown. Oh yeah, I gotta go to the museum. Give the bug and the turnip. Just keep going this way. Okay, here we go. Museum time. Give them those. Okay. Oh. Sorry about that, my cord fell over. Here we go. What are you two doing over there? The western ruins are of particular interest to me because they yield a steady supply of ancient artifacts from the era of the Witch Queens. I imagine you're very busy getting situated, but I had wanted to ask, have you had a chance to see Mistria off the beaten path? There are ruins and artifacts to be found everywhere. This land is rich with history. You know, I've seen a little bit. And I'm hoping soon, one day, we can get those mines open. But for right now, what have we got for quests? Oh right, I unlocked those pants. Okay, quests. You gotta wait for 6 PM. Gotta get the lilac. Gotta get those. Water chestnuts and a scarecrow. Okay, let's see. Are they grown? They are! I can get them. Great, that means we can actually move on with this quest. I'll get them all. And then... who wanted them? juniper. So let's go back and grab the lilac. Oh, that only gave me shards. The berries. Let's go. Okay. Here's my chest. Now I can get that. There's 5 of those. Okay, so we got the lilac and we've got the water chestnut, so we can go find Juniper now, who is probably in her bathhouse. Let's see. Where are you? Oh no, you're all the way up there. Okay, I don't know why you're all the way up there, but let's go find you. Okay, a little further. Oh, hi Valen. Ah, Blaze, since you're not spending your early days here hope you're not spending your early days here overworking yourself. Not all time has to be spent productively. Leisure is good for you. Thank you, Valen. Juniper, there you are. Oh, your request for water chestnuts. Here you go. Perfect, here's the recipe. Sometimes I think if I hadn't gone into the bathhouse business, I would have opened a snack stand. I suppose I could still fill my cauldron with cooking oil one of these days. Oh, 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 oh. I love the little sound effect. Okay, ooh, we got a recipe. Let's learn it. We have learned to make water chestnut fritters. And now let's turn in the lilac. Well, well. Adeline's little request board scheme actually works. I'm interested. Now follow me. Will I ever say Adeline or Adeline the same way? No, I guess. What are you little gremlins doing here? We're following that smell. That super gross smell. If I knew bats could make you smell like this, I wouldn't try to avoid them. It's like stink armor. What's in the cauldron isn't for the bath, it's for a health tonic. With one sip, you'll be instantly refreshed. No one is going to drink that if it tastes as bad as it smells. Ah, but I have yet to add the final ingredient. Blaze, if you would. Lilac. There we are. That unfortunate smell is cleared right up, don't you agree, Blaze? Smells like old wet socks. Ah, an obvious improvement. Now, who to test it on? Ooh, me. While I admire your enthusiasm, Del, I think you should reward the intrepid adventurer who retrieved the final ingredient. Aww. I will drink the goop. I should not have drank the goop. Put the goop back. Cool. Very interesting. The lilac appears to have inverted the potion's intended effect. It sure did. Place doesn't look too good. We should go get Dr. Valen. There's no need to get that woman involved. Here now, Blaze. Why don't you toddle off to the bath? It's on me. Removing all of my stamina and my health. But at least I get a fun, fancy bath. See, kids, right as rain. And to make sure there's no lingering effects, your next 5 bathhouse visits are free, Blaze. Who would ever want to take that many baths? Thank you again for your assistance, Blaze. I'll be sure to call you again in the future. Now why don't you all scoot out of here? I need to do a post-experiment write-up. Are you sure? We could help you come up with lots of ways to describe how bad it smells. Hot garbage. Dog burps. Oh, children. See. What other quests do we have? Wait for that. Oh yeah, what do I need to make a scarecrow? I should start gathering that. Okay, tell me, what do I need for the scarecrow? 15 wood, 10 of that, and I need more, hay. Okay. I guess it's time to start cutting some grass. There's lots of grass to cut. Oh, hello. You know, Blaze, I admire that you've taken over the old farm. Thought about it myself, but I live too much by the seed of my plants. I love him. And she's a fishing. Can't afford a fishing rod yet. I went for the bag upgrade first. Okay, let's cut up some grass. Okay. Try to see if I can get hay. If I could just get a little bit of hay, that would be nice. Okay, yeah, fair. I did say a little. there so I could see how much of stuff I'm getting. Another paddle hopper. I'm getting somewhere. I almost got enough. Oh, bug. Are you a tree or a bug? Well, let me get the bug first. That I know is a bug. Okay, there. Now we can get some more grass out of the way. Okay, we'll work on the scarecrow more later. But do we have any other quests other than those two? Gardening materials. Go find some dig spots. After I clear my... You know what? No, I'm not gonna clear my inventory. I'll start by the dig spots first and then clear my inventory. Get a little buggy bug. This. Did I catch you yet? No, I got a bumblebee. Let's see. Bring stuff to the museum. So we got that we can donate. One of those, and one of those. Nice. Okay, we got a lot of stuff donated, and there's Errol. Salutations, please. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Get some more wood. Oh yeah, I wanted to go a little further to see the big spots. Oh, there's something over there. Chickpeas. Yeah, I've got like 30 wood. Go from higher up, it seems. Okay. Scared that little guy off. Sorry, little guy. Get some berries. Now let's go a bit this way. Past here. Here. These bad boys. Okay, oh, there's a flower. Oh, there's one over there too. Get this. I'll probably find a use for the clay. Ancient crystal goblet. An ancient royal scepter. Nice. And that's all the dig spots there. See what building we can do. Hello, fishies. Oh, hey, another dig spot. Yeah. Donate some stuff. Okay, cool. Ooh, I got stuff for it. Treasure. Soy sauce. And farmer's cap. Neat. Don't know what I'll do with it, but I've got it. There we go. Let's see what we got. I'm gonna need more for that scarecrow. Let's go back to farming grass on the farm. Because there's still a lot of grass there. Hi, March. What? Couldn't have repaired the bridge without your support. Oh, well, you're welcome. I will get through to you one day. Okay, let's see how much I need. Because I need a scarecrow for that quest. Got 12 out of 15. So I need 3 more. And then I can build that and bring it to Arrow to finish the quest. So let's go farming for some grass. Let's see. There's a little over here. Little more over here. I would like more hay versus a small grass seed. Oh, there we go. Just 2 more. One more. Oh, bugs. Okay, I'll save those bugs for selling, I guess. I'm getting a lot of grasshoppers. Sell you. Sell you. Yeah, sell you. Okay. Oh wait, it's supposed to be 15, I'm missing one. There we go. Now I've got enough hay. Put these away. Okay. Now let's go to the crafting table and make us a scarecrow. And then after that... Well, I guess we gotta go to the inn because it's Friday night. Not enough to level up, but still pretty neat. Okay, cool. We got the scarecrow. Oh, when did I get a new thing? Oh yeah, that. Okay. Friday. Scarecrow. So I need to find Errol. Okay, where is he? Let's check the map. Okay, so everybody's already in the inn. Let's see, he's over here. What splendid craftsmanship. Thank you very much for this, Scarecrow Blaze. I used to have my woodworking done by Landon, but since his retirement, I haven't wanted to bother him. Hit me. Ooh, she sounds pretty confident, don't you think, Reese? Wish I could say, I just deal the cards, man. I'm in for 50 more tesserae. Oh ho, this bluff won't work on me. Are you quite certain you don't need any more cards, Nora? Are you sure you don't need any more cards, Errol? Now, let's keep it friendly, no need to get worked up. Hey guys, 4 of a kind is good, right? Or should I hold out for 5 of a kind, guys? We've been lucky to have Reese helping with repairs since the earthquake. He's a really capable person. In fact, you remind me of him, Blaze. Hey, let me know if you need anything. Errol talked to you about the museum? Fantastic. I knew the Mistria Historical Society could count on your support. Mom's got big plans for the Saturday market. I'm just excited to walk around. I know you're the new farmer and all, but don't get jealous. I'm the one in town who's known for being corny. Okay. Landon. These other folks in their games, I like to really sit with a drink and appreciate it, you know what I mean? Certainly, better to turn your senses to one thing and give it the attention it deserves. Isn't that right, young March? Please, come here, I'll let you in on a little secret. You're not so bad. Haha. Oh, what was I saying again? Oh my, it seems our young blacksmith is a bit of a lightweight. It's because he's drinking the cheap stuff, just like you, Valen. Having no palate is nothing to be ashamed of. Here, try some of mine, you'll see. I suppose you've had plenty of time to refine your tastes, but as a doctor, I simply can't recommend drinking at home alone. A girl can't get a little sloppy on a Monday, right? Monday night? This is why you have a reputation for being stiff, Valen. I have a reputation? Come here and sit with me, Blaze. The girls are fighting. What fun! Sometimes I can't tell if those two are friends or enemies. I suppose it isn't too important as long as they can share a drink. I heard Island found an ancient statue on your farmstead. That happens a lot out here. He even said the Sleeping Dragon Inn was a historical landmark. It does go pretty far back, come to think of it. Okay. Not close enough to 6 yet. We're getting there. Maybe if we cook some stuff. And up the cooking level at the same time. Yay! Now let's turn in the quest. You made it! What did I tell you? It's a full house. Why don't you go around and see what everyone's up to? Oh, and here's your free drink. Yeah! We've done enough mingling. There might be some night bugs I can get if I wait around long enough. Let's chop some trees. Chopping the trees down. Oh, out of stamina. Okay. Plants are watered. Got some extra tree wood. I think I will save and quit here and call it night. My character sleep. Yay. Oh wow, that's a lot of unlocks. Oh, I got the stone rank! That's so cool! I'm at level 10! Okay, we'll see the Saturday market next time I play Fields of Mistria. Load in so I can load out. Okay. Well, I'm gonna end it here, guys. Thank you for coming. It was nice streaming for all of you.